So I ended up kissing the man who was sitting next to me on a flight who I'd never met before. Oh, it's story time. This was like a Hallmark movie or a rom-com. I can't quite decide yet. So I was flying from Austin to Orange County, and I get on the flight and I sit in the aisle seat. There's this young kid who later I find out his name is Justin, sits on the window seat, and then there's a seat open between us. And we know it's a full flight, so I haven't buckled my seatbelt. People are walking by, and there's this guy kind of out of the corner of my eye who is putting his stuff in the overhead bin, and his business is like right here. And I was like, oh, okay. But I look down and I see his shoes, and I see he's wearing a suit, and I was like, oh, hello, that's fancy. It seems a little overdressed for Southwest, especially in a middle seat. So he's like, hey, mind if I sit there? And so I stand up and I look at him and I go, oh God. Oh, okay, be cool, be cool, be cool, be cool. This man was fine, so fine. Shaved head, beard. He's wearing sunglasses inside, which we judged him a little for that. But the suit looked good, tattoos, just my type. Maybe my toxic type, but my type all around. And my heart was going, okay, we've got a 3-hour flight. Be cool, be cool. So he starts making small talk with the guy by the window. He starts making small talk with me. I'm kind of flirting a little bit, being a little funny. He at one point had to get up and go to the bathroom before the flight started. So we were doing this kind of whole rigmarole with like getting up out of the seats and getting back in. And at one point before we even take off, he looks at me and he goes, you got a ring on? And I said, nope. And he said, are you looking for one? I said, not anytime soon. He's like, I'm Jay. Just a letter. Just a letter. Hi, Jay. I'm Tara. Nice to meet you. This was a 3-hour flight. The only time I picked up my phone was to take a picture with him by his request so that he could prove to his friends that this actually happened. But we're kind of like, like nuzzling up to each other. We're being really flirty. He's like starting to put his hand on my leg and I'm cool with it. Like he is not crossing any boundaries that I'm not okay with. I start to learn more about him and I'm very familiar with his career and a lot of things that he's been a part of. So instantly there was this connection and this, again, just like this familiarity. It didn't feel weird at any point, even though it got weirder. We have daughters that have the same exact name, which is a kind of a rare name. So that was weird. And yeah, at one point he holds my hand. I met this man maybe like half an hour before that, and now we're holding hands, and we kind of like joked about it, and then I was like, oh, this is weird, and then I pull away, and then like he'd reach for it again, and then I'd hold his hand, and by the end of the flight, by the end of the 3 hours, I'm like laying on his shoulder, laying my head on his shoulder. We have kissed a few times. I go back to the bathroom at one point and the flight attendant is asking me if my boyfriend would like any more to drink. And I'm like, I just met this man. Okay. Because we were acting like a couple. And the thoughts that were going through my head during this whole thing were, why not? Who's it hurting, right? He's single. I'm single. Clearly attracted to each other. And we're on a flight. Like, he's making me laugh. I'm making him laugh. We're talking about, he's already asked for my number. He's already had me text him so that he has my number. He is already talking about taking me out the next night because we're going to be in the same city for a few days. I'm like, why not? Why not? It has been so long since I have been able to hold somebody's hand on a plane. I have been single for 3 years. Why not? So yeah, we go out tomorrow. It's like a fairy tale. I mean, it is the best way to meet people, and yet you never do. And he just kept going, how is this even possible? How is this even a thing that is happening right now? So we had a couple of inside jokes that we were flying Southwest, and he goes, it's not Southwest, it's Southbest. We had these little stir sticks with like the little Southwest heart on it, and I wrote on the back of his, will you be my ride or fly? Yes or no? He wrote, I think I flew in love with you. It needs some work. I asked if I was the wind beneath his wings. He asked if I wanted to join the Mile High Club. That was a no. But we were having a great time with the flying 30,000 feet romance in the air. So maybe it pans out to be nothing. Maybe it pans out to be something. I don't know. But it just gave me hope and like being open and receptive. And Meeting people in the wild. What is your craziest meeting somebody in the wild story? I would love to hear it. But that's a pretty good one, right? It's a pretty good one. Proof or it didn't happen, I got you. And ghosted. Never heard from him again. And I wanted to share how I processed through that because I know how disappointing and how frustrating and how aggravating getting ghosted is. From somebody who's done a lot of healing work and who refuses to let the dating culture that everyone experiences tank me from putting myself out there. So yes, it was incredibly disappointing to get ghosted. We messaged a little bit that night after the flight, but then never heard from him again after that day. And, you know, your brain wants to default to what's wrong with you. What I didn't realize was how drunk he was on the plane. In hindsight, I was looking at it because he had 4 shots on the plane, but just based on his behavior kind of at the start, I realized he'd come on the plane drunk and then just kept going. And then towards kind of the end, he was getting real sloppy with his words. He was getting loud on the plane. And I was starting to having to like manage him. I remember at one point I even said to him, because he was talking about flying me out to his house in Florida. And I was like, I would bring peace to your life and you would bring chaos. So like in the hindsight of my brain, I had this awareness that there was something I was picking up on with him that was old patterns that I used to be attracted to of like, I can fix you, I can heal you. My love will change you kind of a thing, where I did a disservice to myself. There was a couple of instances in hindsight reflecting back is when I kept checking in with my body of like, am I okay with this? What I equated to a calm nervous system for me specifically was more so I was numb in my body because there were things that were happening, especially conversations happening with the other passenger that was on the window seat that were somewhat dominant and controlling and pretty racist at times. And I kind of ignored those things. Also, I was in a situation where it's like, if I were to start setting boundaries or pull away, there was nowhere for me to go. I liked the attention. I loved the attention. I liked how playful it was. I liked how in the moment I was being and how just kind of fun and flirty I was being. I haven't been that version of myself in a while, so that felt really good. But again, the disservice I did to myself was after the flight and after we'd gone to baggage claim and after we said goodbye, I started painting out a fantasy and a story of potential and what could be in the future. And that's where I don't kind of know if that's healthy or not, or if that's just, I know it's normal. But that's what hurt, was the story I was painting out in my head rather than the reality. And so when I recognized I was getting ghosted the next day, that's when you're kind of slammed with reality and you're having to assess, what did I miss? And yes, you go through like, is something wrong with me? Like, did I say something wrong? Did I do something wrong? But I also need to balance that with other fantasy-based thinking that doesn't make me the problem or that doesn't make me broken. And that's also that maybe he was really super embarrassed by how he behaved. Maybe that's just how he behaves. Maybe he has no memory or recollection of it. I doubt that because we took pictures and we texted afterwards. So he at least has it documented in his phone. And maybe it was me. Who knows, right? But I'm not going to sit and let somebody I've known for 3 hours, who's very drunk, dictate and determine that anything is wrong with me. If anything, if we pull back, there was a lot of behaviors that were super fucking toxic on his end. And I also participated it fully, was fully willing to participate in that. But there was a good self-reflection the next 2 days of kind of just assessing what happened. I would probably do everything the same that I did on that flight, except for I would have had a few more boundaries around the kissing and the touching. That to me, we went a little bit too far with that. It was fun. It was fun to kiss a dude on a plane that you've never met before. It was a great story, but I think that started getting me a little bit more emotionally attached rather than being more detached of how this was all going to go down. So, Jay, if you ever see this, grow up, buddy. And I work with men and help them through nervous system regulation, which you seem to have a lot of demons. So I'm here to help you, bud. Yeah, but it's going to cost you more than a shot of vodka on a flight. Have the day you deserve.